everything that came thereafter made F&B more and more not an enviable trade to be in.
Welcome to the Brick Mortar Cloud podcast, where we share about scaling stories in F&B and retail. This podcast is brought to you by Staff Any and produced by Nick Chan. I'm Janson, one of the co-founders of Staff Any, and today I'm extremely excited to have Kevin from Goodluck, Off Day Beer, and Fatt Choy
Eating House.
For us in today's episode. And I'm super happy because it's our episode that we can get to have some Fatt Choy and some off-day beer.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, can you have a quick introduction of yourself after that sip of beer?
It's absolutely natural for you to not be able to pronounce the last company that we just started, Fatt Choy Eating House, because it's so new, right? A little bit about myself, the accidental F&B operator. We started pretty much about the same time that Staff Any started. I think it's about 8 years ago, right? Or more or less started out as a hobby, right? We were interested in craft beer. We enjoy drinking, and as with most silly people, they turn their passion into a job.
And now it's all work for you.
It's much easier being a drinker, right? Enjoying whether it's a cocktail, craft beer in a sense, and good food, right? But I think about 8 years back, we took the plunge, right? We said, hey, let's do this, right? But no one sent me the memo on
how difficult it might be, right?
The very difficult word called COVID, right? Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, it's not that it's all rosy now, but I think that's behind us now. And now we are looking forward to the new F&B scene, the new normal, right, post-COVID, and exciting things in the pipeline for us to look forward to, and of course work with guys like yourself, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Goodluck has always been institution, I think, in Haji Lane. Personally, whenever I visit Haji Lane, it's one of my must-visit stops to grab local craft beer, and you always have various local craft beer, rotating on tap. Could you share a bit more about why you focus so much on local craft beer as a focus area?
A lot of this, the keyword today is accidental.
Accidental.
Yeah, a lot of this is accidental, right? 2 years into our little craft beer journey, we didn't always start out being so specialized, right, in the range of things that we do specifically for craft beer, right? We used to, obviously, like every other craft beer bar, right, chase the hottest craft beer in the market, hottest IPA, hottest stout, and all that when we first started. I think when 2 years into Goodluck, we were trying to find where our purpose is, right? I think that's important for a lot of business, right? Finding your purpose, right? So why are we doing this? You know I'm an ex government employee, right? So I mean that has been half my life was doing that, and got out of it to find meaning, purpose. So when we did all the businesses that I did, right? I mean, it was very important to always ask myself, hey, why am I doing this, right? If it's not meaningful, go back, send my resume to you, to anybody, right? Get a day job, right? I mean, why do this? So purpose was important for us, and for me, the ability to support the industry that we operate in, craft beer, specifically local craft beer, was important. And that was when we really changed strategy and said, hey, come, let's just... Back then, we only had 8 taps. Let's just get all local beers. Forget about all the imported beers, right? No matter how exciting and whatnot, right? But let's just do local beers. Because back then was also the early days of local craft beer. I mean, I would consider that like kind of like the second wave of the local craft beer movement, right? Back in early, before I even started, there was some other guys that was already doing craft beer locally, but in a small scale, it was very, very challenging. But when I started focusing on some of this direction to push local craft beer, some of our friends from Rye and Pine, I think, was just starting. There's this brewery called which I will share a little bit more. Innocence Brewing,
Mm.
right? It's started by a chap called Michael. He's I think he's American, Asian American guy, right? And he came to Singapore because wife located to Singapore for work, and he said, I want to start a brewery. So that's him. And Brewlander started about the same time.
Yeah.
Right. I
That
thought,
wave.
hey, there's enough critical mass of not a lot, but enough of these guys, local craft beer guys that's around that we can rally around, support. And to us, things that during that period it was still hobby, right? It was not job, not business, hobby. We just want to hang out with people, have fun. And I said 2 years into doing that, Innocence Brewing, which we were one of the local breweries that we supported quite a bit. And Michael came and said, hey, you know what? I have to relocate. Wife got to move again. Right. So
Accidental opportunity.
yeah. So I said, hey, the brewery is here, man. Why don't you do something about it? Right. So, and that's how we got into the whole brewing business, for better or worse, right? We have no business. We have no business doing all this stuff. But back then with this enthusiasm, right? And we thought, hey, we wanted to help to shape the local craft brewing scene. Naive as I was back then, right? Thinking that, hey, it's great. No, we have facility. We raise some money and say, hey, let's do this, right? See who's interested to start a brand. And obviously, we started a brand. That's how Off Day came about, right? We now have the ability to brew our own beers. And
Right.
Off Day Beer Company was a result of that particular endeavor.
Right.
And we have another brand, which we don't have a bottle of it here today. It's called That Singapore Beer Project, but that's where it's a very hyper local brand that we showcase at Goodluck on Haji Lane. So, majority of the taps that we have now, we have 12 now, focuses on some of the local collabs that we do, a lot of interesting flavors that we infuse into the beer. Like we just tap a Bacalhau tropical stout on tap, so using very local ingredient to make beers.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that, Kev, I've always known you being an excellent, what I call collaborator and helping people, grow together. I mean, from what you shared with the story of Innocent Brewing and, in the end of the having your own brewery and working with other brewers, right? And I believe some of the beers might be brewed in your facility.
Yeah.
You also, during COVID, gather Haji Lane together to help with co-delivery with some of the prawn noodle shop and other restaurants and all. And today even when we look at beers, I think the one in front of me is a collab with Mud Rock.
Yep.
And when I was in your shop last week, I mean, I've been there quite often. You have collabs with even Mama Diam, right? There's a calamansi lager. Is it lager or is it
IPA?
IPA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me more about this, community spirit or collaborative spirit. Instead of doing it yourself, why do you choose to always collaborate with other people?
I think the innate desire to collaborate is I mean, like I say, the last couple of years has been turbulent, right, for our trade and what we do, right? Collaboration was and from my perspective, I know makes the journey more manageable, right?
Mhm.
Working with people and you feel like, we are doing this together and we are getting through this together during COVID, post-COVID. I think it all makes sense. I mean, there's really no good reason not to be
Not to,
collaborative from our perspective. Obviously, craft beer is unique in that sense, as it's a very core DNA of any craft brewing scene, whether it is Singapore or in Australia and the States. I think it has always been like that. Right? Collaboration has always been the mantra for folks that's in this industry, right? And what we did on Haji Lane was intuitive. I mean, in parts, collectively surviving COVID, those are the things that we thought was meaningful. Again, we keep coming back to this word as well, right? It must be with meaning and purpose of what we do. Right? I mean, there's no point. But you see now, if you ask me, turn back the clock, I got time machine, Michael J. Fox in go back to COVID. Day one 卖走了.
But I think when you persevere all the way, then you have the fruits of your labor as well as to bring the Singapore craft beer scene up to the next level, right? As well as Singapore food, because I think Fatt Choy Eating House has been very focused on more local focused menu. I think there's like Hokkien mee, satay, and dumplings, and many
Yeah.
more, right?
Yeah, so Fatt Choy Eating House was out of necessity, really, right? I mean, for us on post COVID, right, the F&B scene has been rather dicey, right? I mean, the macro headwinds are, I mean, my the way I would describe it is quite dramatic, lah, right?
That's
From our
right.
perspective, post COVID, everything that came thereafter made F&B more and more not an enviable trade to be in. Really, the cost structure has changed dramatically. Manpower, especially, you guys are in the manpower trade yourself, right? With Staff Annie doing the amazing work. I mean, we've been with
Thank
you
you
for
for
what,
that.
6 years already.
All the way.
Hey,
All the
you're
way
supporting
supporting.
me.
You have been supporting us all the way. That's
Is
right.
it? Do I
All
get
the
a
way.
badge?
Yes, you get a badge and a t-shirt that after this show we'll pass it to you.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and that's really I say post COVID really challenging, and Fatt Choy was our response to that, right? Like, we need to diversify what we do. I mean, we have been very focused on whether it's the brewery, making beers, being an F&B establishment that is known for what we do for local craft beer, but I think that has an audience, but I think we need to seek out new audiences
Right.
for what we do.
So with this COVID new normal plus post-COVID, I think there's also macro factors on inflation, tourism reduce. I mean, recently we of course have the Coldplay concert that made, revitalized the Haji Lane scene quite a bit. What has your strategy changed in 2024 in terms of like vision and group of concepts that you have? Because on my hand, I obviously know that Goodluck, Fatt Choy Eating House, Off Beer, as well as Sake Matsuri, right? I think you bring in craft sake in the event format. I think the last time I visited the one was in UE Square. Was it UE Square?
That was a long time back, yeah.
And then you have many more, right? Where you bring in the sake experts into the event to share more about what they do and all. How has that business strategy changed? Like, what's your direction for 2024 and 2025?
Sake again was, like I said, I didn't plan this entrepreneurial journey, right? So sake was accidental in some sense. Good friend came over and said, hey, that was 2018, right? I said, he's in the sake distribution trade. We're no business. We're not doing sake distribution. We're just purely an events platform, right? And he has a vision for a sake platform, sake event that can bring together all the sake enthusiasts at least once a year, right? Back then we did once a year. And when we first launched it in 2018, the first edition of it, the reception was really good. To us, we were there at the right time when sake was really picking up. But at the same time, it was, as again, macro factors supporting the sake growth in Singapore, right? In Japan, sake is on the decline. Right? It's old trade. The young Japanese are not drinking sake. So for most brewery to survive, export is a solution. That's how they are also shifting, gears for how they want to save their brewery, right? From generational shift, right, in behavior. So export was great. In Singapore, Singapore is always a great place for some of these what I would consider premium product, right? I mean, sake, like especially our taxation. I mean, our duties regime enables that, right? We pay duties on alcohol by volume. We don't pay duties on the quality of the sake. So what that does to the market is a lot of good sake get into Singapore, like not on the value of what they would be invoiced out, right? But on the value of how much alcohol there is.
Right.
So it makes sense to only bring very good sake into Singapore. So we benefited from that. And that also requires that whole education, which what Sake Matsuri was doing for the trade. Right. And on the consumer end as well.
Right. So am I right to say that a lot of strategy now, apart from the brick and mortar that you have, I mean the Fatt Choy Eating House, Goodluck, direct to consumer also, whether is it off day and some distribution to I see off day in other craft beer places as well. is events also that strategy then? Like, is going to like introduce more craft products from around the world? Is that going to be the case? Is there going to be more events that we expect to see from the team behind Goodluck?
The last couple of years has been really focused on consolidation for us, right? We look at the market, we look at the macro headwinds, and we say, hey, you know what? There's a lot of uncertainty, right? The biggest thing that obviously have the trickle down effect for small businesses like us, right, is really interest rate hike, right? So the interest rate hike, no, should be plural, hikes, right? So that happened in the last couple of years. Beyond the control of what the government can do, right? I mean, that came from the USA and the impact on mortgage, the renter, and people's ability to spend and prioritizing where the wallet goes, right? Really has that profound impact on
discretionary spending, right?
Exactly. And coupled with the strong Sing dollar, it doesn't help, right? Because I think obviously you imagine the folks that are benefiting from most, not impacted the most by a stronger Singapore currency are Singaporeans themselves. But because in Singapore, you still spend your chicken rice still 350, it's the same 350 they're earning, right? Government has done a great job at keeping jobs and all that. So I think, but the side effect of having a strong currency is the money flows out, right? People are
tourism spending outside.
Tourism outbound is spending is dramatic. Inbound, people can't spend. But we feel it the wrong way. The pulse of Singapore tourism to some extent we see.
And Haji Lane, that's right.
Haji Lane, we can feel it, right? So the tourist that comes in having a pint of beer, they can feel the pinch, right? And they can rationalize it quite differently. So for us, and that is also one of those things that we say, perhaps the folks that wants to have a pint, right? For us, to some extent, saturated, right? The folks that wants to eat, right? I think Singapore is unique, right? We have, like I said, $3.50 chicken rice, $350 omakase.
The whole spectrum.
I think we have a whole spectrum, and I think tourists coming into Singapore are quite prepared to go from 350 to 350. And we, Fatt Choy Eating House strategy was to look at what we have on Haji Lane offering, be affordable, right? Be quality driven, right? And give the tourists on the street that's perhaps not so into craft beer, for example, but another way to experience Singapore culture, right, which is through food, which is kind of, our menu, right? It's really driven by Singaporean hawker culture, street food, right? And things that we're familiar with, like Hokkien Mee, but done in a much more refined way.
Right. Would you share one of the most recent challenges that you have overcome in terms of operating this business and what you did to overcome that and what some learnings you have with some of these challenges?
I think it's not easy having been dragged, should I say, dragged through the mud, right? In COVID, right, for the last couple of years, right? So we hang on, we held on to the businesses that we're running, and then emerge from that, and then to see that the light at the end of the tunnel is bloody train, right?
It's a train.
Literally a train wreck coming, right? So and then to say that, guys, we need to make that decision to say, let's throw more money into the business and reinvent ourselves and hope that we are making the right decision with Fatt Choy Eating House, for example, and we can emerge from that better off, right? And I think that is the challenge, right, for small business owners, right? Which are really like cash flow is a big thing for small businesses, right? I mean, the impact of what we have gone through the last few years has really made it much more difficult for us to make big financial decisions and then hope for the best, right? So Fatt Choy Eating House is one of those things that put in money, renovate the space, hire staff to run the menu that we want to run. So you need to drive that conviction, not just myself, right? To convince the team that this is worth their while. So that from my perspective, management standpoint, it's one of the biggest challenge we're
Right.
trying to emerge from that.
Right. So on this section on the podcast, we always like to talk about metrics, KPIs, and managing costs, because I think cost is one of the largest driver of any F&B business in Singapore. So maybe could you share a little bit on how are you managing some of the costs, like food costs, labor costs, rental costs as the big three, right, in operating a business? And if you could share some insight, what kind of cost ratios do you usually try to aim in respect to revenue numbers? You know, there's rule on the street, what, 30%, 30%, 30% kind of stuff. How is it for your business? Could you share more on that?
Yeah. So I think by and large, food costs, I mean, you mentioned, right? I mean, most people, I mean, the sound way to run it is about 30% COGS, right? So what we are looking at, I think, in terms of the way we want to position ourselves, right? We're not cheap, we're not crazy expensive. We're doing very local Singaporean food. We try to be creative with the ingredients that we use where possible. You know, we do dabble in some of the more premium proteins, like, you know, Iberico pork, and that's one of the things that we use. We use Wagyu beef, you know, for some of the things that we do. So we tend to fall below 30% on COGS, right? By and large. And these days we're also very sensitive to the where we get our supplies as well, right? I mean, earlier we met Kai, right? I mean, we spoke the same thing. Nowadays, I'm very involved in the procurement of anything, right? Supplies for the restaurant. So we aggregate, consolidate, look at it, compare it, and then we realize that some of the suppliers, the supplies are, I mean, no fault of theirs, obviously, right? I mean, they have a whole laundry list of things that they're selling, but you could, for the most part, I'm a big fan of Sheng Siong now, right? We go there, we check. Hey, actually, you buy stuff on
grocery chains.
you definitely can have significant cost saving if you try to compare. And what supplier does for us, obviously, it's a one-stop shop. You know, the convenience, the ability to call them anytime,
right?
And the logistic that comes with it, right? But I say for us now, you know, we want to make sure that we can justify every dollar and cent that's going out from the business. That's one thing on the COGS front, right? Manpower front, I think that is a age-old conversation about manpower struggle in Singapore, right? We have we are unique in the sense that we have been around for a while, right? And we do have a portfolio of things that are interesting, sufficiently interesting enough for Singaporeans, local Singaporeans, to want to be involved in. So we've always been lucky that way, that staffing on that front has never been dramatically challenging.
It's one of the perks, free beer, as part of the offering for your staff.
I think we're quite liberal with that. I think not Asia, as long as it doesn't become a problem. But I think where we struggle with is motivation, right? Where we struggle with is really competency,
performance,
and getting the right kind of culture and leadership into play, right? For local staff.
I want to shout out local staff. The lady that was in your shop that was there for quite some time, helping with not only serving, ordering, recommending beer, as well as doing Instagram posts. What's
you
the
mean
lady?
My beer auntie?
Yeah, I don't want to say.
Yeah,
she's not that old lah. She's a bit more older, but she's not that old.
Yeah. But Valencia is amazing. Valencia has been working
shout
with me
out to her,
for quite a while. She's one in a million.
Awesome.
You're not going to find many fail around, right?
Right. So with that, how do you help incentivize and push performance of your team members and push them to the next level? And in terms of labor costs, while you don't have the issue of recruitment, how are you managing like over time? Now there's the PWM that might increase the cost of doing business and all. How are you managing some of the labor costs?
Our biggest struggle is with the more transient labor, right? Which are the part-timers. We come, they go, and motivation level quite different. And we've always done this exercise on paper about incentivizing them. What can we do? How do we encourage them to take on weekend shifts? How do we encourage them to be more engaging on the floor, be more like Val, right? Talking. And And it all comes back to the only carrot we have is monetary incentive, right? I mean, pay a little bit more, hit some target, pay a little bit more, but that we don't have the silver bullet to resolve that lah, right? But it is my uh, desire this year is to, as much as possible, not rely on stuff that we are unable to coach properly, right? So I think that is kind of the challenge that we face now. I mean, we're transitioning to that mode where if we can, right, work leaner but work with competent full timers
Right.
that wants to do what we do. So that's where we are at now.
When we talk about scaling F&B businesses and all, usually there's a technological and digital element to that. Is there an investment that you did in recent years, or tech product or tool that you like to share with other F&B owners on what has been very, very successful for you?
Is this where Kelong?
That's what Kelong? Not Kelong lah. Please talk about other things. Yeah, talk about other things.
Yeah, there's a few, right? I mean, like Staff Any has always been a great productivity tool for us, right?
Thank you.
As far as scheduling, and especially when we have the number of part-timers on our payroll, right? We were operating 7 days, 12 to 12, right? We have 2 outlets.
Right.
We are very, very reliant on casual workers to do some of this stuff, and the ability to use your platform, right, to call for shifts, right, to be able to not have a manager on an Excel sheet, put things together, that saves us a lot of time, right? So I think that has been an amazing tool for us. Obviously, we wish that we can dive deeper into some of the other stuff that you have, but
it's okay.
It's another layer of training that you got to provide for the staff, and you got to have a whole team of people that got to coach. So we are definitely looking at incentive program. We talked about it before, right? How do we incentivize guys? We put it into the thing, right? The other thing that we have just tried, and again, part of the bigger thinking, right? Again, same thing, throwing more money into something, hoping that it will work, is a loyalty platform.
Platform.
Yeah, like a loyalty program. I mean, I share with you, we recently tap on another provider for our loyalty program, right? Avocado,
they're a really good platform. Loyalty, helping you with voucher programs or engaging your customers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, but it was a really difficult decision from our end, right? Because it means, again, we got to throw money into it, right? In spite of the government grant that comes with it and so on and so forth. But we got to throw cold cash at it and see whether it works for us. So I think these are one of those dilemmas, right? You're investing, right? But the ROI, it won't come immediately. So that's akan datang, we don't know, right? We are getting onboarded, and we hope to be able to put together a compelling loyalty program that makes sense. Maybe you have good advice for me. You can tell me how to do this better.
I don't really have a lot of good advice. I think Avocado is a good product for loyalty and customer relation management and all. And I do believe that the implementation will be successful. And shout out to the Avocado team member. All the best. So now we'll move on to our quick fire questions. Where I'll ask you a few questions to answer in a quick 1 sentence kind of stuff. So first question is, who is someone in the industry that you follow and learn a lot from?
Okay, hang on to your seats. You won't believe this, but it's you, Janson, right?
Kelong 2.0.
No lah, right? I think we met many years back, right? Like say founding of Staff Any, and through the years, let's say we don't hang out a lot together, right? But every time I receive a message from you, I receive a call from you, it's always you thinking about how we can collaborate with someone that you have met. And I think you may not think that is a big deal, but for us, right, every time we have, like, say, I don't know how many chat groups I have with you already, right?
Yeah, too many.
All those people that you try to pair us with, whether is it beneficial to your business or not. I think without those considerations, right, you have always stood by the business partner like ourselves, right, and genuinely want everybody to succeed. I think that is quite rare in the industry. I mean, where you come out and say craft beer is unique, right? I mean, but for you in doing what you're doing, I think myself, I really appreciate that and really cherish that. So cheers to you, okay?
Thank you. I'm gonna cry already. But, thanks for sharing that. Hopefully some of that will be helpful, and
I hope you continue to do that, not just for me. I don't know how many other chat groups you have with how many people. I think exponentially a lot more.
Exponential.
But I think continue doing that. I think that's really amazing work that you do. Always at the back of head thinking about the business partners that you work with.
Thank
people
you,
like
thank
us,
you.
small guys like us, struggling and think, man, Kevin can do something to make it that will help his business and so on, right? So
Let's all hot together and hopefully that works out well.
you will.
What's one piece of advice you would give someone that is starting out the business for the first time?
I think be clear about what you want to achieve. I say that to a lot of young kids that I meet there.
So I got 4 more questions, but we need to be faster a little bit.
Okay, come like.
If your son is interested to join F&B,
to each his own lah. He's young, he can decide.
If we were to dine at the Fatt Choy Eating House with your best friend, what would be the thing that you would order, and make sure that we all try?
Okay, we have this dish that is from Chef William, right? I mean, he inherited the recipe for Roxy Laksa.
Wow, I love it.
I think is really an amazing recipe for a laksa that has the right nuances or what it needs to be, very balanced and all that. So that's really a favorite dish for me. And last year we did a pop-up in Paris with this laksa as well, right? And it was so well loved. So, and laksa is just amazing dish. It's so Singaporean, and you go to Malaysia, you order laksa, it's a completely different thing. But in Singapore, our laksa, it's just
totally different. Exactly. I had the privilege to dine at Rocketto and Iseko and tried Chef's William's snow crab laksa, atas level, amazing, and my friends love it at the snowboarding slopes. How should people interested in your business follow you?
I mean, social media, easiest.
Instagram,
IG.
Goodluck, or is it Fatt Choy Eating House?
Fatt Choy Eating House. I think that's the easiest one. I think that's the newest one that needs a lot of interest and support. I mean, we've been very lucky. Everybody that came by, they enjoy what we do. I hope we can continue to keep the standards up, which is always a challenge, but
right.
do that.
Last question is, are you willing to give one of our lucky listeners a one-on-one mentorship session over a beer or Zoom if they, reach out to us?
Of course, happy to, right? I mean, don't call it a mentor session. I'm happy to share, right? I mean,
catch-up session.
Just learn not to do some of the silly stuff that I've done. I think that's half the better one.
Thanks for being so giving. So actually, this is the end of our podcast. Do you have any final parting words with our audience?
Yeah. Be kind, right? And share, spread the love, right? I mean, do what Janson is doing. I think amazing stuff. So I think we all have a lot to learn from one another. Always be prepared to learn, right? I know, at work I'm not the funniest guy or the nicest guy, but I think we try to find time to be kind to one another, right? And the journey will be much easier.
Thank you, Kev, for volunteering your time on this episode on Break Mortar Cloud Podcast. I hope all of us good luck and have a Fatt Choy year this year on the Year of the Dragon. Let's go!
Right.
Woo!